This is not Star Trek. Before I begin, BearBear Nerd Fun put a video out about Issa Brownis. She is an actress on Star Trek Picard, and she was taking a selfie in which, as you can see here, there's a sticker on her phone. It says patriarchal patriarchy advisory feminist content. Now, I am having a real problem separating the art from the artist lately. Really am. There's a section in my book that praises Mark Hamill in the Fandom Menace Volume 1, and it's almost at the point where if it wasn't so far along in the process, I'd take it out because of some of the crazy things that he says online. I'm having a real issue trying to enjoy content from these rich elitists who have no problem crapping on other people, virtue signaling, promoting sexist ideals. So here in this Hollywood Reporter article, Star Trek Picard actress on show's progressive Asian American representation. And the quote here says, "We're telling stories about the future, and we're saying, hey, in the future, we're still going to be here," says Issa Brownies, who plays Daj. These are people that do not understand Star Trek. This is an actress playing on a Star Trek show that does not understand Star Trek. That message has always been there. It's not who you are, it's the content of your character. These are the people that are running Star Trek. They have no idea. They think that this is a platform to virtue signal about ideals from today's politics, and ignore the content of what Gene Roddenberry created, of his vision, of what the people after him continued in the tradition of Star Trek. This message has always been there. It's this information, because I've tried to ignore it. I try to ignore the vomit, the flatulence that comes out of these actors' faces, because I want to try and enjoy the content. But I can't do it. It's impossible to enjoy this content when you constantly have morons with terrible ideas corrupting our modern mythologies, corrupting Star Trek of all goddamn things has always been about measuring someone on the content of their character, not what they look like, not where they come from. It's always been about that. It's people like you that are injecting identity politics into something where it is never needed to exist. All right, let's get into this horrible fucking episode. First off, I'm having a real problem with the idea of a shipyard on a planet. I'm still having problems with that. They start out with a shot of Mars where there are shipyards on a planet's surface instead of in space. I mean, they show some ships in space, but having a real issue with that. And the first thing that we get to see are the new these androids, these the knockoff Data androids, and they keep them all locked in a freezer all night. The Federation would have never okayed the creation of a slave race. That's what I said in my last video. This is what they're trying to tell us, that the Federation okayed the construction of this is not Star Trek. So, yeah. The guy comes in to wake him up, and he says, "Good morning, plastic people." I mean, what? Humans haven't evolved. It's basically, this is Alex Kurtzman's Star Trek. All of the progression that the human race has made in that universe, in the Star Trek universe, doesn't exist anymore. Everything. There's always going to be a few people in any society that has prejudices or bigotry or something against someone else. Like, that's base human nature. But in Star Trek, it's not about what you are, it's the content of your character. But according to Alex Kurtzman and the people that hire people like Issa, who have agendas and who can't think outside of their own box and have to inject what they see as overall culture in today's society from their limited, horrible, myopic view. That's what Star Trek is now. It's not bright. It's not hopeful. It's a complete perversion of everything that I have loved for my whole life. So he says, come on, plastic people, or time to get up, plastic people, or whatever. And these slaves that they have constructed that would have never happened. They do their master's bidding, right? That's where we start out with in this episode. Space docks on a planet's surface, constructing ships, and the creation of a slave race. That's where we're at. Then, of course, one of the slaves come in and start getting made fun of by the people. They're making jokes with them and making jokes about them because, they're only robots. They're not sentient. They're slaves. So that's totally something that I could see coming out of all of the culture and character development from TOS all the way to Enterprise. Yeah, I could totally see that happening. So here we are with the boomers. I guess they're Trump supporters or something. Old people, bigoted, closed-minded. They're just making jokes about the android and it's not human. And then they say that it could rip titanium with their hands. I remember Data being pretty strong. I guess they've made some upgrades when they made their slave race, but that's a little far-fetched for me. All right, so at some point, and I can't imagine why. Oh, actually, it looks like the androids were hacked. That's probably what happened in this situation. I don't know, but seeing as that they've been talked down to and treated like crap, they decide to revolt. And so the android freaks out and starts reprogramming stuff turns on the orbital defense system onto Mars, onto the shipyards on a planet's surface, and then starts murdering everyone. Now, if this wasn't Star Trek, I would have been amused. Honestly. I mean, they're borrowing a hell of a lot of ideas from other franchises. Comics Division brought up Blade Runner. Yeah, kind of. I can see that. But this isn't Star Trek. This is not Star Trek. This is not Star Trek. This is an abomination of Trek. And then he kills himself. Now, this is the part of the story that makes me think they were programmed, they were hacked into, and then did all this effery. And throughout the rest of the story, which we'll get to, they insinuate that they were hacked by this new secret Romulan police. Because the Tal Shiar wasn't secretive. Let's go on. So we get back to Chateau Picard, and Picard's talking to his Humulans. I'm not going to call them Romulans because they look human and they act human. They're Humulans, and he's talking with the Humulans about the editing that was done that took Daj out of the explosion scene from the last episode, and then they get into this conversation about the secret police, the secret police. The hold on, I even have to look at the Jat Vash. I'm going to call them the Bad Gash. So the Bad Gash, they're the secret police because they're even more secretive than the Tal Shiar, and they've been around for thousands upon thousands of years. Let's ignore that the offshoot of the Vulcans, which was the Romulans, who went off and settled Romulus and Remus and all the planets in the Romulan Star Empire. They began that trek about the 4th century AD in human on the Terran calendar. But they've been around for thousands upon thousands of years. How much canon can possibly be destroyed by one company to an entire franchise? I mean, obviously, we look at Disney Star Wars and we can get that answer. But how much can Alex Kurtzman and CBS All Access do to dismantle, to completely destroy the legacy, the vision, the optimistic outlook, the canon, everything about Star Trek? Last episode, I tempered my expectations because the bar is really low. It's heartbreaking. It is absolutely heartbreaking to see the level of, it has to be intentional malice that is being done to Star Trek. Thousands upon thousands of years. So the bad gash has been around for thousands of years, and they hate androids for some reason that nobody knows. And they're scarier than the Tal Shiar, the secret police, the bad gash. So apparently we have time scanners now. The Romulans have time scanners, and this chick, this Humulan, who has been living with Picard for almost 20 years, 14 years, whatever it's been. Like now all of a sudden we're finding out that she's like used to be Tal Shiar or something, and she has technology that's unapproved or frowned upon or illegal in the Federation. But yeah, that doesn't matter anymore. That doesn't matter to Picard. I mean, that wouldn't break any of his break any of his moral codes or anything. But so she's scanning through time, and check this out. Not only can you scan through time, but you can get visuals and audio. And this technology is so readily available that there's ways to counter it too. The bad gash can counter it. So I mean, she's only Tal Shiar, or was Tal Shiar, or whatever it is now. This Humulan, and so the Humulan's going through the database at Daj's crib. I guess we can call it a crib because everything about Daj or anything about anybody outside of Picard is 21st century. It's 21st century. It's our time. So they're in her crib, and they're going through her data files to find out if she had contacted her sister, because nobody questions anything. They just kind of roll with it in the show. And they find out that it was off planet. Now, I'm trying not to hate for the sake of hating. I swear it's so difficult. This is a scene where if she wasn't such a Humulan, an O-Romulan, then this would be okay. I'm not really upset with that. Romulans are meticulous in what they do, and they see finer details. This is an aspect of their race, so sure. And that's where I'm at, really, with a lot of this. It's like, oh, sure. Like, that's the best. Nothing's exciting. It's like getting beaten down. They've destroyed canon so much. It's like being beaten so much that when something that is acceptable passes through, you can't even be excited about it. I'm just like, yeah, okay. What the hell is this? What the hell is that? What is that? What is that? That's something out of a weird turn-of-the-century sex film. What is that? All right, so then we find out that Dr. Feminist is sleeping with Bucktooth Humulan. And whatever. So Picard's friend shows up from his time on the Stargazer, and he's his doctor, and they're discussing Picard's medical condition, because apparently now in Star Trek, you need a medical clearance to travel through space. Apparently now you do. If I've watched every Star Trek show, all right, even the ones that I wasn't too hot about, I've watched every one. McCoy was on TNG, Admiral McCoy was on TNG. He was like, he was like 140. He was old as dirt. All right, but I guess he had clearance. Sisko's dad had a heart condition. He traveled to DS9 quite a few times. But apparently now you need clearance to travel through space. Okay. And they finally bring up his Irumodic syndrome without bringing up the Irumodic syndrome. They said it could be like one of many things. I don't know why they would cut that out. If you're going to confront the illness from All Good Things, you're gonna just say Irumodic syndrome. But now Picard's dying. This is Doomcock might be right again. I think Doomcock might be right again. I think they're going to kill Picard in this show, and then they're going to name the ship that he's traveling on with that crew that we haven't even really met yet. They're going to name that to Picard, and that's how they're going to keep going with this show. If that turns out to be true, this is not Star Trek. Then something happens that makes me feel good for a moment. But then I remember it's like putting a silk hat on a pig. It's Picard goes to the Federation, and they play one of the older themes that first was played in the TOS movies, and then was adopted into The Next Generation, which is one of the most beautiful themes to me in all of science fiction. I love hearing that classical music. It's just member berries, man. They're not true to the canon. They're not true to the lore. This is just to make you feel good for a second. It's imitation. It's not... With everything that they're doing, I can't even appreciate it. We see a shot of the Enterprise D, the holographic image, which is nice. But again, it's like a silk hat on a pig. You're just... It's not Star Trek. So Picard goes to an admiral, asks if he can get reinstated and go back on a mission. Take a small crew. He'll even be demoted to captain. He just wants to go out into space. And he explains what's going on. The admiral's reaction to this. Who is this bitch? You know what? Bitch face incarnate. First off, now, Federation admirals, this is one thing I will say. Federation admirals, there have always been the good ones and the bad ones, just to be perfectly honest. All the way back to the Undiscovered Country, this has been kind of a trend, where there are admirals that are self-serving, or they work in ways that go against the Federation Charter, you know, for the good of the Federation, you know, breaking the law for the good of whatever. You know, there's always been jerks. There's always been jerks in the admiralty. So that much I don't mind. What I do mind is Admiral Bitchface. Admiral Bitchface says the F word, and then says the hubris of Picard. I'll be honest, I've heard that word 1,000 times before The Last Jedi, but since The Last Jedi, that word just completely attaches me to middle fingers at fans. That always summons up to me creators giving a finger to the fans. And so that's how it felt to me. That's just my personal interpretation of it. But running around and swearing and talking down to Picard the way that she did, what is this? And even the character of Picard knows that this isn't Star Trek. Like, this whole scene to me is someone playing a character in Star Trek, yelling at everybody else because this isn't Star Trek. I felt a connection with Jean-Luc in this scene, because I'd be astonished too. This is not the Federation. The Federation would not create a bunch of slave race. They wouldn't. I can see some planets. They were having a discussion about the planets that wanted to succeed or had a problem with Romulan, them helping the Romulans. Like, I get that. The Romulans are dicks. The Romulans are dicks. They're infiltrators. They're very intelligent. They play chess with everybody. Multi-layered chess games. You know, the intellect is. I get some people not liking the Romulans and not wanting to help them. But let's ignore the fact the Romulan Star Empire has thousands of ships. And apparently, they've been around for thousands and thousands of years, so they wouldn't have the manpower to evacuate all their people. I hate this. I hate this universe. I hate this. This is not Star Trek. But, so that argument is valid, I think. There would have been planets who would have been like, nah, we don't want to help them. They're dicks. I get that. But the admirals, but Picard asks her, or Picard states, the Federation doesn't get to decide who lives or dies, and she says, yes, they do. This answer is right, but for the wrong reasons. All right, the Federation would not save a species who had not been able to make first contact. Would have not stopped the natural development of a species, even if they were under a threat of extinction. That's true. It's not that they're deciding who lives or dies, but they remove themselves from the natural selection. But when you're dealing with races who are established and you have diplomacy with, and you would, the Federation would do everything in their power. They're the good guys. We seem to forget that, CBS. They're the good guys. They would have done everything in their power to help save the Romulans. Everything. So, your whole reasoning for them not, the slave race of androids, which the Federation would have never built in the first place, is flawed. The logic of this episode is flawed. The very heart of this show is flawed. It's bad. Then we finally get Punk Romulan. Now, Punk Romulan is more Romulan than I have seen. This doesn't look Humulan to me. This looks like a Romulan to me, albeit a funny-looking one. But still, more Romulan than we've gotten. I wish we could get some consistency. I'd kind of like the green skin back. I'll take dark brown from the original TOS. I don't even care. But some makeup, some more makeup would be nice. We get some shots of some actual, with the exception of the shade, the skin shade being off, decent looking Romulan. So you can do it. Don't know if this was somebody came in and fixed it. A lot of this show seems like you had this one group of writers who were doing it, and then other people came in and then fixed some of the things that they knew the fans weren't going to like. So I enjoy seeing a Romulan. This looks more Romulan to me than we've gotten. I'm glad to see this. I thank you, I guess. Got to see some Andorian chicks. I'm down with Andorian chicks. Thank you. And they look Andorian, so I'm not that upset with this. The Andorian chicks are hot. So Bucktooth Romulan, Bucktooth Humulan, he's speaking with Dr. Feminist and her new friend, Newbie, and they're discussing the ship, which has been disconnected from the rest of the hive because it was damaged, which is something that, okay, somebody writing the script understood a little bit of Star Trek, which is a good thing. Okay, like really okay. I need to think on this more. This show, I can't. So they're basically dissecting the Borg cube, which is something I could see the Tal Shiar doing, something I could see the Romulans doing. I don't really have an issue with this. They would get any and all information they could on the Borg because the Borg would still be a threat. I mean, how could they not be? In my opinion. I mean, who knows in this universe? Who knows? Because we're not dealing with. If this was canon Star Trek, I would have issues with this. This is not canon Star Trek. This is Alex Kurtzman Trek. This is JJ Trek. This is not Star Trek. Whatever. The doctor from the Daystrom Institute comes to see Picard. Blah, blah, blah. Data daughter. Let's go see Maddox. Blah, blah, blah. There is something interesting, though. Picard says that he was never interested in science fiction. Now, this is the most Picard statement that I have heard in the entire damn 2 episodes that I've watched. This is the most Picard statement that I have heard. Because I believe that. Picard didn't think in those terms. He didn't think in those terms to the point where he was the perfect example for someone like Q to throw into a multiple timeline event to try and get him to think outside of mundane terms. And I believe that's the reason why Q did that. To see if humans, even the most rigid thinking of humans, had the ability to think in more grandeur terms of the universe and the possibilities. So that, to me, that's the most Picard thing that I've seen in 2 episodes. So we got Bucktooth Humulan checking out this scene where they are dissecting Borg that were disconnected from the hive, and they're taking them apart. And again, we see another Romulan that looks more Romulan than we've seen from the other Humulans. And Android Feminist gets upset because they called the Borg nobody or no one, and she gets upset because they did have a name before they were turned into Borgs. And the Romulan says, "I did give them a name, it's nameless or no one." Yeah, that's pretty Romulan, I guess. But yeah, I can't. It is like I said. The reason I started this video out by letting everyone know what I think of this virtue signaling, sexist, garbage human who's getting paid vast amounts of money to use one of my favorite franchises as a platform to espouse sociopolitical propaganda and ideology is because I can't appreciate her at now. The first episode, as much as I had problems with it, I thought that I could appreciate the acting. Like I tried to appreciate the character, but at this point, I hate you. I hate you. Really. I'm so tired of having to separate the art from the artist. So when you have this scene where she's like, they had names before, I don't like when you call them that, that's what I hear. That's what I hear. It's hard for me to just look at the art and appreciate it for what it's for what the creators are trying to show me. All I see is a smug virtue signaling third wave sexist piece of crap. I can't. The scenes in here were kind of gross a little bit. It's a little, dark science fiction. But yeah, they're cannibalizing the Borg now for whatever reasons. This is not Star Trek. So then we get Commodore Not a Vulcan, right? The actress that plays Commodore Not a Vulcan, forgive me, I don't feel like looking up her name, is one that I like, and she's playing a bitch with ears. She's playing a bitch with ears, is what she's doing. And now, Vulcans forever, actually. The way that Sarek would speak with Spock to the Vulcans in Enterprise. Vulcans have this kind of superiority about them due to their logic, their superior mental faculties. So there is a bit of arrogance. There is arrogance that comes in the Vulcan culture. And I can appreciate that. And I tried my best to appreciate that. And I did so because I like the actress. See, can you imagine that when you actually like someone who's playing a part, how much easier it is to accept some of the differences that they may have in a role that you believe should be critiqued? Isn't that amazing? So I'm trying to accept this. She's being bitchy. Commodore Bitchy is talking with Admiral Bitchface. There was obviously tension in this conversation due to that there are Romulan ops happening on Earth. So the scene was all right. It was okay. I tried to appreciate it because I enjoy the actress. Imagine that. So then we go back to Chateau Picard and the Humulans, and Mrs. O'Romulan, she's having a shit fit because Picard wants to go off and have an adventure, and she's scared of the Gash, and doesn't want him to go off because the Tal Shiar would now want to kill Picard if the Tal Shiar is involved because he knows what's going on, and that's all very well and good, but O'Romulan is pissed off. O'Humulan. There we go. O'Humulan. O'Humulan is pissed off because she's scared. She's acting. This is an Irish woman with ears. It's an Irish woman with ears. You know, really. And the most stereotypical. Her husband appears a little more Romulan, but he's just. God, this show is shit. This is not Star Trek. So then there's a scene where the Humulan says to Picard, you should gather your friends, Riker, Worf, Geordi. Yeah, we'd love to see that. We would love to see that. But Picard is like, no, I can't, because they would put everything ahead of themselves, and I'm not going to do that to them, and Data sacrificed himself for me, so I'm not going to do that to any of my friends. F this show. What? Picard would have pulled people that he trusted. Hands down. If the Federation was acting completely unethical, if Admiral Bitchface had gone off on that tangent like she did, he would have pulled on every string connected to the Federation. He would have done whatever he could to fix this situation. And that includes getting a hold of people who would do anything for you. The last time that we met Worf was at the end of DS9. Well, no, it was in the movies, but the last character arc that we knew for Worf was that he was the Terran ambassador for Quanos. So he's hanging out on Quanos, should still be. Klingons are long-lived. Hanging out with the Chancellor, Chancellor Martok. That is the resources of an entire empire. Those two are tight. Martok and Worf are tight. They're in the same house. Well, Worf is in Martok's house. He could have a Klingon battle cruiser at his disposal if he wanted to. And that's just one of his friends. That's just one of his friends. You're going to tell me he's not going to contact any of these people and use the resources at his disposal? You're going to tell me, as much as he cares about Data, this is Data's daughter and all that shit, that he's not going to contact the other people that also... He wouldn't contact Geordi? Are you kidding me? Fuck this show. This is not Star Trek. Then we meet the most Romulan, non-Romulan in the whole show. I can't even remember these people's names. So, Romulan, not Romulan. She comes in to talk to Commodore, not a Vulcan. And Commodore, not a Vulcan, is upset with Romulan, not Romulan. And says to her that her team sucked, which they did. She was the head of the team that went after Dodge and were just doing the most ridiculous un-Star Trek things like not using a stun, not just beaming their victims into a cage. Just some of the most ridiculous plot holes and stupidity ever to be slapped with the Star Trek label. Yeah. So Romulan, not Romulan, did a bad job. But I guess she can't help the writers. So Commodore, not a Vulcan, tells her that she has to do a better job, and she has to go catch android feminist, whatever her name is. I don't even. It's getting more difficult to even review this shit. Yeah, so there's that, right? So Picard, instead of going to see any of his friends that would have dropped everything, pulled all their resources to help with this situation, he instead goes to see Sarah Connor wannabe cat lady. And Sarah Connor wannabe cat lady doesn't like Picard. Pulls a gun on him. Tells him to F off. So Picard shows her some wine and says, yeah, there's Romulans working on Earth. I don't know anything about Sarah Connor cat lady. I don't care. I guess we're going to find out more. But at this point, this episode has beaten me down to where I'm just rolling with it. So Romulan, not a Romulan, shows up to Bucktooth Humulan. And apparently we find out there's more than 2 android feminists. And to be honest, come on, Steve, summon it up. Summon it up. You care a little bit, right? Summon it. To be honest, Romulan, not Romulan, is the most Romulan person on this show. Bucktooth Humulan says, I can't get used to your round ears or something. And Romulan, not Romulan, says stuff. But to be honest, she's the most Romulan person on this whole show. Like her mannerisms, the way she's speaking to Bucktooth Humulan. Throws some makeup on her, some green makeup and some ears and the forehead, and she's the most Romulan character on the show. But Romulan, not Romulan, yeah, I think she's my favorite so far. I think she's my favorite character so far. I like her more than I like the portrayal of Jake Picard. To be honest, this show's killing me. We're going to get through this together. We're going to get through this together. So she gets up in Bucktooth Humulan's face, and I'll be honest, I think she's kind of hot, which helps. Romulan, not Romulan, really has a strong presence, and she's hot. So there's that. For some reason, I love hot women who are complete bitches. It might be why I'm not married. And, there's another scene. There was a scene earlier where Android Feminist was talking to her newbie friend. And newbie friend was like, oh, he's hot. And Android Feminist was like, yeah, I know. No. Is that hot? Is that hot? Can you let me know in the comments if that's hot? Is Bucktooth Humulan hot? If he is, I got to change my whole game up, I guess. I got to start eating some soy and grow a weird-looking beard and some 70s hair. Act like a douche. I'm so lost. Yeah, so this pretty much sums it up. We got to wait till next week to find out about Not Sarah Connor Cat Lady. And apparently there's more of these android things running around. And this is garbage. This is garbage. If this show doesn't do a radical 180 in the next episode, I don't know what can save it. You know how long I waited to see my TNG characters back on screen? A while. I mean, some of the movies were pretty bad, but I at least enjoyed them enjoyed seeing those actors and those characters. I would rather have gotten nothing at all at this point, right now. I give this episode an F. This is an F. I gave the last one a B because you showed me Klingons, and I would have rated it a C. I'd like to now change that rating after watching it a few times and talking with some other Trekkies. That was a D. Last week was a D. And you get a D because you showed me real Klingons in a still frame. This episode is an F. I'm sincerely trying not to hate for the sake of hating, guys. I'm really trying not to. Really trying to be as optimistic as I can. There were some shots in here that I liked. O'Humulin, acted a little bit Tal Shiar, a little Romulan there for a minute during the middle of the episode. And I tried to appreciate that, but she's so human. She's so human. It's hard. It's like the show doesn't know what the hell it is. And I can't stand this chick. I can't. Isa, please, Hollywood, stop hiring people who want to push terrible ideologies and division and hate and want to bring it into our favorite sci-fi. This is not Star Trek.
You had best square your ass away and start shitting me Tiffany cufflinks, or I will definitely fuck you up.